You've been told love is spontaneous, it's soul deep, it's forever. But that's a modern myth. For most of human history, love wasn't about butterflies. It was about stability, power, survival. We are bombarded with images of true love from the moment we are born. Fairy tales, romantic comedies, pop songs, they all paint a consistent picture of a singular, all-consuming emotion that is the ultimate goal of human existence. We are told that love is a feeling, a destiny, a force that will conquer all. But what if I told you that much of what we believe about love today is a relatively recent invention, a story we've collectively agreed upon that doesn't necessarily reflect the way humans have connected and committed throughout the vast sweep of history? Today, we're going to embark on a journey through time of what love really meant through different eras and how that sets us up to fail now. And also to dissect this great romantic lie. We'll explore how the concept of love, the very meaning we assign to this powerful word, has been shaped and reshaped by different cultures, economic systems, religious beliefs, and social pressures across millennia. Prepare to have your assumptions challenged, because what you think you know about love might just be a story you've been told. So prepare to rethink everything you've ever felt. The same as the last one, before love was about romance, passion, or soulmates, it was about survival. Love, or what we now interpret as love, originally emerged as a biological and social glue. It wasn't a feeling celebrated with poetry or candles. It was a set of bonds, instincts, and alliances that helped our ancestors stay alive in harsh, unpredictable environments. It is the pre-romantic love, or we can call survival bonds era. Long before there were roses, rings, or romantic comedies, love had a very different purpose. It wasn't about happiness. It wasn't about passion. It was about staying alive. In prehistoric and hunter-gatherer societies, partnership was functional. Communal survival, child raising, food sharing, and mutual protection. There was love, but not exclusive passion. Anthropologists studying the Hadza of Tanzania and the Kung of the Kalahari found something striking. While long-term pair bonds were common, marriage wasn't a rigid or legal contract. Women could end relationships on their own terms. Childcare was shared among the entire group, and love was deeply human but not possessive. Monogamy existed, but it was fluid. These societies prioritized emotional honesty, autonomy, and communal support over exclusivity or permanence. It's a reminder that our modern ideas of love and marriage aren't timeless. They're cultural inventions, constantly evolving. Romantic love was rare and often described in ancient love poetry, but without institutional weight. Survival mattered more than emotional exclusivity. For the vast majority of human history, marriage was not primarily about romantic love. In ancient civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia, marriage was a pragmatic affair, an alliance between families, aimed at consolidating wealth, ensuring lineage, and providing social stability. The focus was on duty, procreation, and maintaining the household. The idea of marrying for passionate love was often considered foolish, even dangerous. In ancient Greece, the word we associate with romantic love, eros, certainly existed, but it was often seen as a chaotic, even maddening force, separate from the more stable and companionate love, philia, which was valued in marriage. The ideal Athenian wife was expected to manage the household and produce legitimate heirs. Deep romantic connection was not the primary expectation. Greek society even had other outlets for intense emotional and physical connections, particularly among men or with hetarai, educated companions outside of marriage. The Roman Empire, while eventually developing more nuanced views on affection, initially saw marriage largely as a civic duty, crucial for producing citizens. The concept of amour existed, but its romantic connotations were often viewed with suspicion, associated with weakness or obsession. Similarly, in early Chinese dynasties, Confucian ideals emphasized filial piety and familial duty as the cornerstones of society, with romantic love taking a secondary role to these obligations. Then came the Middle Ages, chivalry, troubadours, courtly love, a staged romance between knight and noble lady. The great shift begins in the Middle Ages with the emergence of courtly love. These weren't real marriages, they were poetic constructs. Courtly love plus love service, ritualized devotion outside marriage, espoused by troubadours in medieval France. This was a revolutionary new idea that swept through the aristocratic circles of Europe. Knights would profess passionate, often unconsummated, devotion to a noblewoman, usually someone other than their wife. This was a highly stylized and ritualized form of love, emphasizing idealization, suffering for the beloved, and a kind of spiritual yearning. Courtly love was often extramarital and focused on intense emotional connection rather than practical partnership. It was a cultural game, a literary trope, but it planted the seed for a radical new idea that love could be the primary basis for a relationship, and that this love could be a powerful, transformative force. It's important to note that this romance was largely an aristocratic phenomenon and didn't immediately transform the lives of the majority of the population, for whom marriage remained a practical necessity. The Renaissance saw a gradual integration of these romantic ideals into the broader culture, influencing art and literature. However, marriage remained largely a strategic alliance for most, with romantic love still seen as something that might develop within a marriage, rather than being its sole foundation. This model promoted unattainable ideal love. It separated emotional passion from marriage. It created the myth that emotional love existed, but only outside marriage. So now we've come to the rise of companionate marriage and the cult of domesticity. Marriage, until modernity, was mainly an institution for property, alliances, and inheritance. Love was secondary, or even suspicious. For most of human history, marriage wasn't about love. It was about land, labor, and lineage. It functioned as a social contract, not an emotional one. Across cultures, from medieval Europe to dynastic China, marriages were arranged to secure property, forge political alliances, or ensure inheritance. Romantic love, if it existed at all, was seen as unpredictable, even dangerous. It threatened the stability that marriage was designed to guarantee. As historian Stephanie Kuntz and others point out, the idea that love should come first in marriage is a relatively recent invention, largely emerging in the 18th and 19th centuries. Before that, parents, elders, or community leaders made the match, and passion was something you might hope would come later, if at all. The Enlightenment and the rise of the middle class brought about another significant transformation, the ideal of companionate marriage. The emphasis shifted towards finding a spouse who was not only a good provider or a suitable partner for raising children, but also a friend, a confidant, and an emotional companion. This era saw the rise of sentimental novels that celebrated the emotional bond between husband and wife. The Victorian era further solidified this ideal, creating the cult of domesticity, where the home became a sanctuary of love and the wife was seen as the emotional heart of the family.
This period heavily emphasized romantic love as the proper foundation for marriage, at least in the public narrative. However, beneath the surface, societal anxieties about sexuality, gender roles, and the realities of economic pressures often complicated this idealized picture. It's during this time that many of the core tenets of our modern understanding of love truly took root. The idea of finding the one, the belief in a unique soulmate, and the expectation that marriage should primarily be a source of romantic fulfillment. This was a powerful and appealing narrative, but it also set the stage for a whole new set of expectations and potential disappointments. In Victorian and Enlightenment eras, Enlightenment thinkers and romantic poets insisted that love is an equal partner in marriage, but this was a radical shift until about the 19th century.
By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, marriage became increasingly about love, emotional connection, and companionship. The 20th century witnessed an acceleration of the romantic ideal, fueled by mass media, particularly Hollywood cinema. Love became the central theme of countless films, portraying it as an intense, passionate, and often dramatic force that could overcome any obstacle. The sexual revolution further complicated the picture, separating sex from procreation and, theoretically, allowing love to be pursued for its own sake. The rise of consumer culture also played a role, marketing the idea of romantic love through countless products and experiences, from engagement rings to Valentine's Day celebrations. We became deeply invested in the idea of romantic love as the ultimate personal achievement. However, this hyper-romanticized view has also created immense pressure and unrealistic expectations. When real relationships inevitably encounter challenges and the initial passionate spark fades, many feels like they have failed, that they haven't found true love after all. This disconnect between the idealized fantasy and the often messy reality of long-term commitment can lead to significant disillusionment and the perception that we have somehow been lied to about what love truly is. Today, love is marketed like a product. We expect one person to meet all emotional, intellectual, sexual, and spiritual needs, but that's unrealistic, built on 19th century ideals. Marriage counseling and divorce rates reflect the crash between expectation and reality. So, what are the lies we've been told? Perhaps it's the idea that romantic love should be the sole foundation of a lifelong partnership. History shows us that for most of human existence, relationships were built on far more pragmatic foundations: survival, security, social stability, and lineage. Romantic love, as we understand it, is a relatively recent arrival on the historical stage. Another lie might be the notion of a single soulmate who will complete us and make us eternally happy. History suggests that fulfilling long-term relationships require work, compromise, and a shared commitment to common goals, rather than relying solely on an intense initial feeling. The lie isn't necessarily malicious, but rather a product of our cultural narratives and the way we have chosen to prioritize certain aspects of human connection at different points in time. By understanding the historical context of love, we can begin to unpack these ingrained assumptions and perhaps develop a more realistic and sustainable view of what love can truly be. Recognizing that love has meant vastly different things across cultures and eras can be liberating. It frees us from the rigid constraints of our modern romantic ideals and allows us to appreciate the many ways humans have found connection, support, and meaning in their relationships throughout history.
Love didn't invent itself in the 21st century. It evolved from survival networks to medieval longing, to contractual alliances, to romantic myth, to today's emotional ambitions. Love means different things in different contexts, so let's not pretend our version is universal or perfect. As what was said above, true love might mean different things for different people, or depend on different contexts. For me, personally, I also believe in true love, or one destiny love, but there's limit to that belief because as we've learnt that the truth or the reality is different from fairy tale stories. It's not always beautiful or happy. It can be messy, conflicting, or not understandable. However, I believe if it's really true love, it's about feeling good in the relationship, feeling secure, safe, happy, trying to understand each other, forgiving, wanting to learn from each other. Also the feel of wanting to learn something new or develop yourself more, respecting each other, and most importantly, you can feel your worth in the relationship no matter which stage you're in. Please remember that your self-worth is first prioritized in a relationship. A lot of things, right? But we're in 21st century, so yes, you chose your true love carefully. Someone who you can live with throughout your life with contented feeling till death tear us apart.
Perhaps the truth that history reveals are that love is not a singular, fixed entity, but a dynamic and ever-evolving tapestry woven from biology, culture, and individual choice. Understanding its history allows us to approach our own relationships with more awareness, more empathy, and perhaps a little less pressure to conform to a very specific and historically recent ideal. Thank you for joining this journey through the history of love on Echoes of Mind. I also have a question. What does love mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below.